Hey guys, welcome to the unveiling of my latest acquisition. This is something a little bit above and beyond the usual stuff I show you. Actually, it's the new crown of the collection, at least in terms of size and weight, if not rarity and value. But before I unveil it, which I know you're anxious to see, I want to talk briefly about two things. One is how I got it. This had been listed on eBay for a couple months. The listing had been shared on several collector restoration forums. We all agreed it was amazing. A lot of us would like to have it, but it was in the middle of Colorado, which is just too far for a lot of us, including myself. Just about 1,000 miles from door to door. I've done the drive before, to do it comfortably, safely, 2 days there, 2 days back. Plus it's 300 pounds, and it's basically a refrigerator. I don't think this would fit in my vehicle, so to rent a vehicle, take time off of work, pay for the gas there and back, and bring along help to get it into the vehicle and out, that wasn't going to happen, not realistically. So I just kept an eye on it, hoping somebody else would save it. Then I started talking to another collector, and he said, well, what about a shipping service? I thought that would be ludicrously expensive. And it may very well be if I went with a commercial shipper that would create a crate and pack it and do all that. But he said, well, have you tried U-Ship? U-Ship is a bidding shipping site. Apparently there are others. So imagine something like eBay where you list a job and you give a description, and then shippers will give you quotes, typically independent shippers. A guy in a truck, two guys in a truck. And if they happen to be passing that way already, and they have room on their truck, it turns out it can be very reasonable. They also let you link directly to an eBay listing, so that's what I did. And I started getting quotes. And they were all over the place, ranging from about 400 to over 1,000. And you can reject them, and if you do, or in my case I did, and the shipper came back and said, well, what's your budget? I gave him a figure. He came in just under it. Problem was, he was passing through on Labor Day weekend, and the auction didn't end until a couple of days later, and the seller wouldn't end the auction early, which I totally understand. So I had to reject that bid. Eventually I did get one that was more reasonable. I'll just tell you, it was $385. For the shipping fee, U-Ship tax on, their cut of it, of course, and I think there might have been some taxes and fees involved. It was blanket wrapped, then wrapped in plastic. It was on a box truck with a hydraulic liftgate that came right to my garage, unloaded, and placed it right in the middle where I wanted it. Fantastic. If I had held out longer, shopped around longer, I probably could have gotten it a little bit cheaper. But I was happy to get someone that met my budget in my time frame. The item itself, the eBay auction had dropped to $120, which is ridiculously cheap for something like this. But again, location is everything. It was Lafayette, Colorado, which is a bit outside of Denver, I guess. A lot of collectors are going to be, of course, in the major cities, New York, LA, Chicago, which is where I'm located. So that was that was the problem. It was a very well-traveled set, as I'll tell you a bit later. So it just arrived late last night, and I got up early this morning and thought I would unveil it. Apologize for the background airplane noise. Nothing I can do about that. Now, the other thing I need to talk about is money. This was an expensive purchase. I would like to recoup some of the costs. Based on some of the comments I've seen on my channel, there's a misconception about how YouTube revenue sharing works and how much content creators make. I'll tell you, I don't have any paid sponsors. I don't do placed ads. I don't have partners. I don't do product reviews. All I do is enable YouTube to randomly place some ads that are skippable. If I was to break it down, I'd probably make less than $5 a video, which is crazy considering the time and effort I put into making them. I currently make more money off of Patreon than YouTube, even though I only have about 15 Patreons, or 20 maybe at this point. So, at least some of the content on this project is going to get paywalled. Sorry, but I have to. It's either going to be on YouTube with a pay-per-view or subscription, or it's going to be on my Patreon. Now, I don't plug my Patreon much, but I do have exclusive content over there, and I plan on doing more with it. And for just $1 a month, or more, I'd prefer, you can get access to it. I just have to. I have to. All right, finally, what is it? It's TV. It's a very large TV. It is a 1947 RCA 741 PCS, I do believe. They made this for a couple of years, 47 into 48. It is a projection set, rear projection. So you used to see me do little 7 and 10 inch sets from this time frame. This is 16 by 20, I think, maybe a little bit bigger. So how does it work? There is a 5-inch projection CRT that points straight down, and then there is a concave mirror that shines it up. It seems weird, but the CRT shines down into a mirror that reflects back up over around the CRT itself. It's a 45-degree mirror on the back and comes out the front. I'm no optical engineer, but they had some very smart people back then. RCA had been working on this for years. They came up with a workable system, and they used it in a number of models from 46 to 49, I think. This is, I think, the rarest of the projection sets, and it's unusual in that it's TV only. The others, because of the size, I think they thought it would be more appealing if they made them look more like furniture. So they tend to be shorter and wider, or I think one has a screen that tilts up. But they have radio and phonograph, maybe some storage areas, so when you're not using the TV, they look more like furniture. Yeah, this is a lid that comes down, but the rest of it is, it's kind of neat looking. This, I believe, based on the ads and what I've read, that it was targeted towards upscale bars, gentlemen clubs, and hotels. They made around 1,800 of them over the course of 2 years. So, of that, how many survived? I don't know. I know of a couple others. Some in museums, a few in collectors' hands. This is a well-traveled set. I spoke with the owner, who it turns out is a member on the Antique Radio Forum, and I've read his posts over the years. I didn't put it all together because he didn't sell it. He had a friend selling it on eBay for him. So, anyway, he got it, I believe, if I remember right from our conversation, he got it in a bar in Minneapolis. And he was living in Maryland for years, so he had it shipped, freight, from Minneapolis to Maryland. He restored it, upgraded it a bit, and then he moved to Colorado and took it with him, and then I bought it and had it shipped to Chicago. So this set has been around. Now, the listing said that I believe that it didn't work and needed a lot of help, or needed some restoration. It turns out that it has been recapped and is working, or was working, more or less. He used it a lot. He said there was an issue with the focus last time he used it. I don't know. There's a lot going on in it. It has a lot of chassis. I think there's 4 or 5 chassis. Something like 41 tubes. Typically that's where the numbers come from. So if it's a 741, it came out in 1947 and has 41 tubes in it. I'll be pulling the chassis and I'm going to go over them regardless. Because I think he was talking about restoring it in the 70s, so it might be time to restore it. The construction is unusual, the materials used. So this lid is solid wood and has book-matched flame mahogany real veneer. I've seen a photo of one of these that's in much better shape. This looks amazing. I'm not sure how this got so sun-fitted compared to the rest of it, but this will definitely get refinished. The top and the sides are mahogany veneer. Unfortunately, the rest, this front edge, all these louvers, faux finish, and it's flaking off. I saw another restorer deal with that. So there are ways to do it. And the sides are naugahyde, also known as faux leather. They're in pretty good shape. A little bit of lifting here and there. I imagine you could take your drink on it. It wouldn't harm the finish, maybe something like that. Now there's something that's conspicuously absent. We have no controls. We just have a screen and a box. But you notice there's a handle here, but hey, it doesn't open. Well, this was marketed for public spaces, so they didn't want people coming around and messing with the controls. But it didn't take me long to find the secret. I figured there had to be some mechanism that would allow you to open that, so I started feeling around, and eventually noticed, hey, you can get your hand under here. I felt around, and there's a lever, just like on a car for the hood. Slide that lever over, and there we go. This is real veneer. So one place you can't see normally, they use real veneer. And then down inside we have the usual RCA type knobs, sort of. This are standard knobs they used on all their 40s, early 40s models. These two, I'm not sure if those are original or not. They might very well be, but they don't look like the usual RCA knobs I'm used to seeing. Channel clunker, it's in good shape. These are often cracked because they're rather thin, and it does have channel 1. So channel fine tuning. Oh, what does it say? Picture brightness, on off, vertical, horizontal, and I think that's volume. So yeah, the controls are a little different. Again, maybe because it was intended for public spaces, and the layout is different. Normally power and volume would be on the same knob, and it would be usually right over here. Horizontal brightness would be over there. But they put volume way down here and just on its own. So I think that was, again, part of it. The intended audience, they rearranged the controls a bit from their standard sets. All right, so what is inside this beast? Let's take a look at the back. It is on wheels. They don't work that well, but they're there. Now notice this is in my garage. Of course, I do want to bring this inside, but that's going to take some doing. I want to go into the basement, my man cave, now that I've got some room down there, but logistics. I either go down the steps into the basement, which is I have to go down some concrete steps, through a doorway, and then squeeze by the water heater, the furnace, the stack. Might be too deep to squeeze through that way. The other option is go up the stairs into the house, through the kitchen, down the skinny door and the twisty stairs into the basement. That sounds like it would be very difficult. When the casters work, it's easy to move. When they wind up, it gets a little tricky. Not so bad. We generally had the original back here, but there is a chunk missing. I was wondering about the ladder. That was my quick attempt late last night to put a barricade up in case one of us forgets this is in here and tries to park the car in the garage. I'm not sure what happened here, but I assume this used to, well, just extend across probably. Now the owner tells me, and he showed in a photo the base of the CRT, he tells me that it's been upgraded. I didn't know what that meant, but I just heard from another collector that probably has an upgraded CRT. Originally it's a 5TP4, but there is a 5AZP4 which came out later, but what I think it really has, because it had a red base on the CRT, is that it's a military tactical display CRT. Being military, it's ruggedized. It runs on not 30,000 like the stock one, but 40,000 volts. And it's a bit newer. And right away, dropping screws. Well, there's probably just a mirror or something in here, but I'm kind of curious. A lot of mismatched fasteners here. Just got the last screw out. This back is textured, kind of like leather, but it is just masonite. That I wasn't expecting to see. Just slide out, whatever this is. What the heck is in here? Well, that's kind of cool. Is this the original? Oh wow, no way. I've never seen one of these before. At first I thought that's the mirror, but no, this should be the mirror. And these have front surface mirrors, so the mirror coating is not on the back of the glass, it's on the front. So the mirror coating on this should be on the other side of this. Even though this looks, yeah, and I can tell, even though this looks like, so to us this is a normal mirror, but to get that maximum reflectivity, you don't want the light to have to go through glass, hit the reflective surface, and then go back through the glass. You want just a mirrored surface. So that's on the other side. So that's not what's in this package. Maybe it's a spare mirror. Maybe he had one replated. But anyways, what was in here is an odd place for it. It's not the owner's guide. It's explaining what the golden throat system is. You may have seen this. RCA put this on everything in the 40s. It was their sound system. Well, here's the story of the golden throat. Apparently it's the result of 27 years of RCA engineering research, blended with 48-year musical history of RCA Victor. And so it's their technique of faithfully reproducing sound. Basically, it's marketing gobbledygook. Revised August 8th, 1946. Very cool. So maybe this has been in here since the day this thing was made. I don't know. But that's all I was expecting to see in here, is just a 45-degree angle mirror. As I said, the light goes down, it comes up, it goes out. So what's in here? Aha! It is not a mirror. It is another piece of frosted glass for the front. Fantastic. Don't know that I'll ever need it, but from what I can see, it looks like it's pristine. So maybe over the years, the previous owner came across one and saved it. I can ask him. Another possibility is that this is the original that was damaged and he had it replaced. Either way, I don't know, but I will certainly Keep this safe somewhere. Now let's take a look at the bottom part of the cabinet. Boy, there's just no escaping the airplanes today. Okay, there she is. Well, I don't know everything about this set, but I've done a little bit of research. I know that's the high voltage supply and maybe deflection circuitry. That is the optical assembly. Those are power supplies. Boy, the one on the bottom is kind of comical in the size of this. Looks like there used to be some kind of band that would hold this bag down, but it's not there anymore. Maybe it rotted away. And this just lifts up. And there's the CRT neck and base. Now what's surprising is that this is not mounted. It's just in there. And it's sitting in sort of a cup inside of this. It seems like it should be securely held in place, but I don't see what would do that. Looks like this is just clear glass up top, but it may have some optical properties. It mentions about removing lens. I know in the protogram system there's like an astigmatism correcting lens. I don't know if this has something to do with that or not. It is dirty, I imagine. You want it to be dust free for maximum light to get through it, and this bag I'm sure is part of that. Let's see, so it's got to be a high voltage. Oh, I wonder. I was wondering how do they get the 20, 30,000 volts, 40,000 volts to the CRT. I don't see a connector on it anywhere, but it sits in a frame. I wonder if that entire frame is just going to high voltage, and kind of like a metal cone CRT. I'll show you guys in a minute as best I can. Now I do know others have worked on this system. As I said, they used it in a bunch of sets and it's well documented, so I'm not monkeying with anything any more than I just did because I don't want to break anything. I don't see a number on the CRT, but it has that red base. And he mentioned it was an upgraded one, so that's what makes me think that it's higher quality. I don't know what the life is on these. They are pushed hard. They are aluminized, electrostatic focus. But you can imagine that intense beam and how that light's going to wear out the phosphor. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, we have two gigantic, what look to be power supply chassis, a big old speaker, huge high voltage supply in there. I think it's a tripler. So it'll be three 1B3s, probably a rather beefy flyback, and a whole lot of shielding. Now you talk about X-rays, and X-rays wasn't really an issue with these early sets, and they generate enough voltage for it to be a concern. This does. However, it's going to be, if there's anything we could possibly get it out of, be with the 1B3 rectifiers that are inside this box, and the CRT, which is inside the shielding. And even if they do, they'll be soft X-rays anyway, so I'm really not concerned about that at all. So there we go. Here's a look down into the belly of the beast. So it looks like it's just a circle of clear glass. I don't know if it was there for safety or to prevent dust from getting in there. It doesn't look like it has any optical properties at all. And the CRT is just sitting in this kind of frame thingy that has like heat sinks on it. As I say, this is well documented. I think they have a whole service section just on this optical barrel, so I've got my homework to do. Now, where to start? I tend to fully restore it to the best of my abilities, both electrically and cosmetically. Now, a few challenges right up front is I want to get this into my house. I had it delivered to the garage because I wasn't sure, without seeing it, what the best approach would be. There are 4 doors going into our house. So I will need to pick the best one. Ideally, it'll go through the door into the basement, but that means navigating some concrete steps, getting through a doorway, and then squeezing by the furnace and the water heater and the plumbing stack and all that. I measured the narrowest point and it came out to 27 inches. And this is about 24 or 25 inches from front to back. So I do believe if we go in sideways and are very careful, we can squeeze by everything. I'm thinking I'll take out as much weight as I can. Pull for sure the power supply, chassis, the optical if I have to, because this weighs 302 pounds, I do believe. And there's no way I'm moving this as is. Getting this out the garage to get over a threshold, down steps, down a narrow sidewalk, down some concrete steps, through another doorway, and then around some stuff. 300 pounds, a guy on each side, that's too much. Maybe if we got some straps like they use for carrying appliances, that would help. But I'd like to make it as easy as possible. So I think I have a plan for that. Secondly, I want to get a better idea what this thing can look like, because this, it's not just for the amazing technology inside and the huge screen size for its time. This I want to be a stunning showpiece in my collection. I don't know if it's a highlight of the collection. I still very much like my Dumont Clifton, which I hope to get to start working on soon. But this is bigger, for sure. Came out the same year, but very different approaches. Now that has a gorgeous cabinet. This can be better with help. It does have faux finish. This around the edge, everywhere you see it flaked off, that is a fake finish. It was applied on like a decal, and when it's flaked off, we're down to bare wood underneath. So I got to figure out what to do about that. That's a real shame. You know, I'm not 100% certain about it. But when I see the secondary wood here, that sure doesn't look like mahogany to me. Same around the edges. It sure looks like it's just flaking off finish with a base wood. And you can see on the sides, this is real mahogany veneer. Then there's sort of a transition. Sorry, the lighting's so terrible. It's an overcast day. I can't tell. It's a little bit different color here. That's got to be a fake finish, because I'm not seeing wood grain where it's flaked off. Alright, so you can see how much of it is gone. Going around with a tiny paintbrush and trying to touch that up such that it, yes, it could be made a lot less noticeable, and if you didn't get really close, it would look okay. I might put new veneer on, especially down here. This is all solid brass, I'm pretty sure. This can be polished up gleaming. I'll clear cut it with lacquer. But I want this to look nice too. And you can see down here it's just completely gone. So let's check that out closer. I mean, yeah, that sure looks to me like it's poplar that's been stained a reddish color. There's no grain to that. And this is that naugahyde that continues around. And thank you for just making the bottom a flat black. That's easy. That would be the toe kick, I guess. It's actually in pretty good shape, considering how easily it could be abused. Alright, so there's nothing I can do about this stuff for now. But this is real veneer, and it's two huge pieces of book match veneer split right down the middle. That is a showpiece piece of wood. I want to know what that can look like. So I pulled out some Oz polish. It's really deteriorated and it's really faded. Normally I would use Gojo and Howard's Restore finish, but there's just finish gone. It's just down to wood. Down here, for example, there's nothing. There's just wood. If I put Howard's Restore finish on that, it would soak into it and stain the wood darker. And I don't see much point in cleaning this up with Gojo, knowing it needs to get refinished. I'm not a huge fan of refinishing when you don't have to. This has to be refinished. There is no finish left here. It has to get protected. So how can I get an idea of what this would look like? You can get it damp, a little with water, sparingly, or mineral spirits, so it'll evaporate but not stain or discolor the wood. Or what I'm doing here is just start to rub some Oz cream polish on it. Some waxes and oils that'll clean off, it won't stain the wood or anything. And I just did one little spot, and it's actually did more than I expected. So I'm gonna go over this entire area, and let's see what we get. All I'm doing is putting a little bit on a clean cloth, working into the cloth a little bit, then applying it to the wood. You never want to pour stuff like this directly on the wood, and then just lightly rubbing it in. So I think you can see that has huge potential. Yeah, that's quite the transformation. Also clean the slats up a bit. This, folks, is why you should pay the extra money for a climate-controlled storage environment. This is what happens with extremes of humidity and temperature cycles. The lacquer finish crystallizes and just flakes off. And once the environment gets underneath the lacquer, you get this tanning, darkening effect. But this is a good indicator of what this looked like originally and what I hope to restore it to. What I'm really hoping is that this whole piece detaches and I can deal with it on its own and then reinstall it. That would make life a lot easier. And this, yeah, so it's fake, but it certainly looks better after some cleaning. And I also use the same product on this Naga hide, at least on the top surface. It was really dirty. Interesting, they used the same type of modeling color scheme to make this look like that. So it does all tie it together. Now, as far as taking it apart goes, it's certainly modular. There's a number of chassis. We have the main power supply, we have an audio amp, we have a high voltage supply, we have the tuner, and they are all connected by cables. Aside from the optical, I'm pretty sure I can get everything out fairly easily. And then we can go over each of the chassis. I have detailed service info. And, well, then of course put it back together. Take the optical out if I can, because I think that's a rather heavy component. With all that stuff out, maybe this will weigh half of what it weighs now, so 150. Which seems manageable. Not great, but two guys in decent shape should be able to muscle that, I'm hoping.